Hi everyone, welcome back to Radio Night Crime. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's case. Story 1. What if you had one of those days where you just felt uneasy? Like your gut was telling you something bad was about to happen. For Sarah Chimera, a single mom, that day was November 8, 2000. That morning, Sarah's 4-year-old daughter, Lauren, was totally refusing to go to preschool and definitely didn't want her dad picking her up later. On the way to school, she was just crying and whining nonstop. As a mother, Sarah felt worried, like something wasn't right, but she didn't know what else she could do. If only Sarah had known what was about to go down, there's no way she would have let her daughter out of her sight. So, what awful thing actually happened to little Lauren that turned that day into a total nightmare? Was Sarah able to realize what was threatening her daughter in time? Lauren was the daughter of Sarah and her boyfriend, Cameron Brown, who was a real jerk who bailed on his girlfriend as soon as he found out she was pregnant. Maybe that's why Lauren didn't really like her biological father, because even before she was born, this guy completely denied she existed. Before all this, Sarah had left home to study in the US. During a summer break, she met Cameron, a sporty go-getter from California. They hit it off real quick, both being the same age and into outdoor activities. From summer surfing to winter snowboarding, their feelings for each other grew stronger. In just 6 months, things were so serious that they were planning to tie the knot. However, everything flipped upside down when Sarah found out she was pregnant. Unlike her happiness, Cameron freaked out. He said he wasn't ready to be a dad, not even in the next few years. Cameron kept pushing Sarah to abort the baby, saying it was the only way out. But Sarah, who was raised in a strict Catholic family, flat out refused. The arguments between them got more and more heated, until Cameron gave her an ultimatum. It's me or the kid. Which one are you going to choose? Sarah didn't hesitate. She chose to keep her baby. Cameron immediately bounced, moved out of their place, and cut off all contact from that point on. It's like he was completely done with her the second he realized he was going to have to deal with a baby. After Lauren was born, Sarah tried to get in touch with Cameron multiple times, but every time he heard about his kid, he'd slam the phone down and wouldn't even give his daughter a glance. At 21, Sarah was a single mom and quickly realized the challenges ahead were way tougher than she ever imagined. To take care of Lauren, Sarah had to drop out of school. With her student visa, she couldn't work full-time, which made life a real struggle for the two of them. Sarah was in a total bind. She couldn't take care of herself or her little one. Meanwhile, her parents, old school types who were super pissed and disappointed that their daughter had a baby out of wedlock, refused to help out. Under tons of pressure from all sides, Sarah only had one option left: to sue her ex, demanding he take responsibility for child support. Now Cameron, who hadn't seen Sarah in 3 years, was working as a baggage handler at an airport in California. It wasn't a fancy gig, but he was pulling in about $4,000 to $5,000 a month. After a DNA test, the court ordered Cameron to pay $1,000 a month in child support. But Cameron was immediately throwing a fit, saying, "Why should I have to share the money I worked my butt off for with her and her kid?" He never thought those fleeting moments of passion would lead to an 18-year financial obligation. In the mind of a total scumbag like Cameron, the word responsibility just didn't seem to exist. It's like he thought he could just walk away and not deal with the consequences. Cameron hired a lawyer and appealed the court order. But even after a bunch of legal battles, the court stuck with its original decision. His wages were garnished and the $1,000 child support had to be paid before he even got his paycheck. Finally, the court decided Cameron would have visitation rights and partial custody of Lauren. The amount of visitation time would depend on the relationship between father and daughter. So, under the supervision of Sarah and a court-appointed supervisor, Lauren, who was almost 4 years old, met her biological father. Little Lauren was super cute, lively, and like a total angel. The relationship between father and daughter started off pretty well. Cameron played the part of a dad, taking her to the park, movies, and getting popcorn. He also paid child support on time, never missing a payment. Gradually, both the supervisor and Sarah agreed to end the supervision, allowing Cameron and Lauren to spend time together without any adults around. It's like things were actually looking up for a while there. At first, they only met up once a month, but then it bumped up to every other week, and then every week. Sometimes, Cameron would even take his daughter home for the weekend. It seemed like something out of a movie, you know? Where the kid finally gets love from her dad, and the little girl grows up surrounded by love and affection. But reality ain't always a fairy tale, is it? Lauren wasn't a kid who could easily be sweet-talked. Just a short time after starting visits with her dad, Cameron, she started acting terrified and tried every trick in the book to avoid going. Every time Cameron was supposed to pick her up, Lauren would cry her eyes out, begging to stay home with her mom. These kinds of meltdowns made Sarah suspicious. She carefully checked her daughter's body each time she came back, but couldn't find any injuries. Even the family doctor couldn't find anything wrong. But Sarah still had this creepy feeling in her gut. Lauren was only 4 years old and couldn't explain what was scaring her. She just cried and pleaded not to have to see her dad. It's like she knew something was up, even if she couldn't put it into words. Sarah suggested cutting back on the visits between Cameron and Lauren, but he immediately shot that idea down. The guy argued that the court had clearly ruled that the time he spent with his daughter was a legally protected right. If she wanted to reduce the visits, then of course his child support payments would also be reduced. And you know how the saying goes, every penny counts, especially for a single mom who was already struggling to make ends meet. So Sarah had to cave. Even though she still felt really uneasy, she started seeing child psychologists to see if she could get any solid evidence or advice. In the meantime, she had to keep sending Lauren to Cameron's every week as per the agreement. But on November 8, 2000, Sarah's bad feelings turned into her worst nightmare. That morning, after dropping Lauren off at school, Sarah felt totally on edge, like she couldn't focus on anything. Later that afternoon, she called the school, and the teacher told her that Lauren had been crying all morning and even skipped lunch. A wave of panic washed over Sarah, and she decided to go pick up Lauren immediately and cancel her visit with Cameron. Even if it meant facing a legal battle, she was ready. But unfortunately, she was too late. When Sarah got to the school, the teacher was like, Cameron already took Lauren. He told them he was taking her to the beach for an outing. The teacher also said Lauren was seriously freaking out when her dad showed up, screaming and fighting before he just scooped her up and left. So, Sarah immediately calls Cameron, but he's ghosting her, not picking up. She then calls the cops, but they're totally blowing her off, saying it's his scheduled visitation day. If he doesn't bring her back tomorrow, call us then. But tragically, there wasn't going to be a tomorrow for Lauren. Just 4 hours later, the police show up at Sarah's place with the worst news ever. Lauren died in a fall off a cliff. Cameron was the only one with her at the time. This so-called accident happened at a beach in California, where there's this massive 120-foot cliff called Rancho Palos Verdes overlooking the ocean. Cameron's story was that Lauren was standing right at the edge of the cliff, tossing pebbles down. Then a flock of birds flew by, distracting him for a split second. When he looked back, the last thing he saw was his daughter falling headfirst into the abyss. From that height, even landing in water would be like hitting concrete. It'd be enough to break bones or cause internal injuries in a grown man, let alone a 4-year-old. By the time rescuers pulled Lauren from the water, she wasn't breathing. This cliff isn't exactly a safe spot. Over time, with erosion and all, there have been landslides and folks have taken tumbles. So, initially, the local cops figured it was just a tragic accident, a real wake-up call for parents. But things took a turn when 2 seasoned detectives, Jeffrey Leslie and Danny Smith from the LAPD's Homicide Division, happened to be in the area. They were grabbing lunch at a diner and decided to swing by the scene, see if any backup was needed. Both Jeffrey and Danny were fathers themselves, with kids around Lauren's age. As they hiked up to the cliff, they kept shaking their heads like, what kind of dad brings a 4-year-old to a place like this for a picnic? But what really set off Jeffrey's alarm bells was Cameron's demeanor. A father who just saw his daughter fall to her death should be a wreck. But Cameron was completely calm. No sobbing, no remorse. If Jeffrey hadn't been introduced, He'd have pegged him for just another rubbernecker. And to make matters worse, not only was Cameron stone cold, he was eating. He had this pink lunchbox, the kind with cute cartoon characters on it. Inside was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a kid's classic. Jeffrey instantly recognized it as Lauren's lunch, the one she hadn't touched because she'd been crying so much. And yet less than 30 minutes after Lauren's death, this guy was casually munching on his daughter's food right there at the scene. The whole thing didn't just surprise Jeffrey. It filled him with a deep sense of unease. What was this father hiding? And was this really just an accident? Despite his gut feeling about Cameron, Jeffrey kept his cool as he approached and started asking questions. Cameron answered clearly, recounting the events leading up to and after the fall. But it was this uncanny calmness that made Jeffrey even more suspicious. A father who just lost his only daughter should be devastated, inconsolable. Hell, you'd feel bad dropping a coffee mug off that cliff. But Cameron was emotionless, like a robot. But what really got Jeffrey's goat was the 911 call. When he reviewed the recording, he found that Cameron didn't even try to climb down to check on Lauren. Instead, he spent 4.5 minutes on the phone with the dispatcher. And throughout the whole conversation, he was unbelievably calm. He even cracked a joke, telling the operator, "My daughter just fell off a cliff, and it's right next to a nude beach. Make sure you send someone with some clothes." As a father, Jeffrey couldn't wrap his head around this. He had to wonder, was Lauren's death really an accident? Or was Cameron trying to hide something sinister? The next day, Jeffrey and his partner, Danny, went back to the scene to investigate further. These were seasoned detectives, guys who'd seen some pretty gruesome stuff. But this time they were apprehensive. Not because the case was particularly difficult, but because they were both afraid of heights. Standing at the top of the towering Rancho Palos Verdes cliffs, Jeffrey and Danny didn't dare get too close to the edge. Every step made their legs wobble. Finally, to be safe, they tied ropes around themselves, secured to a large boulder, and slowly inched their way towards the area where Lauren had fallen. The closer they got, the more suspicious Jeffrey became. Would a father really bring his daughter to such a dangerous place just to play? And if so, why would he let a 4-year-old stand so close to the edge without any safeguards? When Jeffrey stood at the spot where Lauren fell, he noticed the cliff face wasn't sheer. There were small ledges and slopes, enough for a falling person to potentially grab onto or slow their descent. If Lauren had slipped, her survival instincts would have kicked in. She would have struggled, tried to grab onto something. Her body, especially her hands, legs, or at least her clothes, should have shown signs of impact or scrapes. But Jeffrey remembered clearly. When he saw Lauren's body at the scene, her clothes were intact and her exposed skin was practically unscathed, except for a few minor injuries on her face. The autopsy report quickly confirmed Jeffrey's suspicions. Lauren showed no signs of significant scrapes or impact injuries consistent with a fall. This convinced him that Lauren's death wasn't just a tragic accident. Had someone, specifically Cameron, deliberately pushed her off the cliff? Lauren's injuries were mostly to her face and chest. Her arms and legs were virtually untouched. The damage was mainly from hitting the rocks after she hit the water. The cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head, fractured skull, broken ribs puncturing internal organs, plus drowning. The ME said she had to have hit the water pretty much horizontally for the injuries to match up. So Jeffrey and his partner headed back to the scene, this time with a doll about Lauren's size and weight, to do some experimenting. They tried every which way. Head first, feet first, slipping left, right, tumbling forward. But no matter what they did, they couldn't recreate how Lauren landed or the injuries in the autopsy report. Specifically, the spot where Lauren fell wasn't a straight drop. This cliff had all sorts of angles, big and small. So if, like Cameron said, Lauren just lost her footing and slipped, she would have tried to grab onto something to slow herself down. And if that happened, her clothes and body would definitely have some scrapes and scratches. But that wasn't the case. The wounds on her face were minor and the rest of her body was completely clean. This made Jeffrey's skin crawl, thinking about what might have really happened. Jeffrey was a dad himself and couldn't believe a father could do that to his own child. But after ruling everything else out, this seemed to be the only explanation left. But one thing baffled Jeffrey and Danny. They tried every possible scenario, but they couldn't make the doll land where Lauren had. So how the heck did Cameron do it? They were at a dead end until a plane flew overhead. Hold on, what's Cameron's job? Jeffrey suddenly thought he's a baggage handler at the airport. These guys are used to hoisting and chucking luggage that weighs a ton. For Cameron, throwing something heavy wouldn't be a big deal. And let's be real, airport workers don't always treat our luggage with the utmost care. A typical suitcase weighs, 40, 50 pounds? That's like a 4-year-old. Jeffrey immediately called up a buddy who worked in baggage handling at the airport. He asked them to send a baggage handler over to help with a little experiment, then had him throw a suitcase off the cliff, just like he'd throw a bag on the job. The results were eye-opening. The baggage handler could easily toss both the doll and the suitcase right to the spot where Lauren had landed. Every single time. Their strength and muscle memory from work made it almost second nature. A huge weight lifted off Jeffrey's shoulders. He finally had a plausible explanation for how Lauren was thrown. But the relief quickly turned to anger. What kind of monster could do that to their own kid? But even with this experiment, the cops still didn't have enough to nail Cameron. No witnesses, no clear motive, just a theory. Jeffrey and Danny were itching to bring him to justice, but they were stuck without any hard evidence. For 5 long years, Jeffrey refused to give up. While Cameron seemed to move on, remarried, started a new family, Jeffrey kept digging. They tailed Cameron, looking for anything to bolster their case. In early 2005, Jeffrey caught wind of something troubling. Cameron was changing his appearance, growing a beard, letting his hair get long, almost like he was trying to disguise himself. Not only that, but he sold his house in California, bought a van he could live in, and started going back and forth between Los Angeles and Colorado. All signs pointed to him skipping town. They couldn't wait any longer. Just before Thanksgiving 2005, the police ambushed Cameron at LAX. They found a wad of cash and a fake passport in his luggage. If he'd gotten on that plane, Cameron might have disappeared for good, and the case would have gone cold. But arresting Cameron was only half the battle. Convicting him was the real challenge. Jeffrey and the team had been working tirelessly since Lauren's death, but all they really had was the throwing experiment and the autopsy report. No direct evidence that Cameron murdered his daughter. And Cameron? He denied everything. He admitted he'd failed to save his daughter, but insisted it was a tragic accident. Nothing malicious. Jurors are regular folks. They have hearts. It's hard for anyone to believe a father could be so heartless as to murder his own little girl. When people are faced with a horrible crime, they often think, no way, how could a dad do that to his own daughter? And that's exactly what made this case drag on forever. Because it's really hard to get 12 jurors to all agree that Cameron could be that cold-hearted to his own little girl. In the first trial, even though the prosecution had a solid case, the jury just couldn't reach a verdict. 8 people thought Cameron was guilty of second-degree murder. 2 thought it was first-degree murder. And 2 others only agreed on manslaughter. The law says that everyone on the jury has to agree on the same charge to make a ruling. So the whole thing ended in a mistrial. Disappointed but not ready to throw in the towel, the DA and Jeffrey decided to go for round 3. In 2009, they tried the case again. Another hung jury. 6 jurors said second-degree murder. 6 said involuntary manslaughter. Total stalemate. After 2 failed trials, Jeffrey was pretty much at the end of his rope. Even his closest partner, who'd been by his side investigating this case for 9 whole years, threw in the towel and decided to retire. But Jeffrey, he just couldn't quit. Lauren's innocent face and bright smile, frozen at the age of 4, wasn't just in the case files. It was burned into Jeffrey's mind, pushing him to keep going. Even though Lauren's own dad was a monster, she had another father, someone who wasn't related to her, but had dedicated years of his life to relentlessly chasing justice for her. By 2015, 15 years after Lauren was gone, Jeffrey found out he had cancer. The brutal treatment was kicking his butt, and nothing seemed to be helping. Jeffrey was starting to face the fact that he might never see justice for Lauren. This whole fight felt like it was going nowhere. But Jeffrey's sheer grit and determination proved something. Sometimes justice isn't just about the end result. It's about the relentless journey to protect what's right. To Jeffrey, Lauren wasn't just a victim. She was like a part of all of us, a child of humanity betrayed by her own father. And Jeffrey knew the only thing he could do was to not let the legal system fail her again. Even from his hospital bed, Jeffrey was still digging through every single page of the case files he'd gathered over the past 15 years. Even if he was on his last legs, he was determined not to give up. But right when things looked their bleakest, a glimmer of hope appeared. The doctors told Jeffrey they'd found a bone marrow match. And get this, the match was his own son, Jack, who was 19. The same age Lauren would have been if she was still alive. Jack, a college student, not only saw his dad as a great father, but also as a real role model. A stand-up guy who would never quit on justice. The bone marrow transplant was a success, and Jeffrey's health started to get much better. It was right at this moment that Lauren's case took a totally unexpected turn. While plowing through piles of old files, Jeffrey stumbled upon a witness who'd been overlooked for the past 15 years. This guy was a former coworker of Cameron's, who also happened to be a baggage handler at the airport. So this coworker said that Cameron was always bitching about the child support payments. He'd be like, "If she wasn't around, I could save a ton of cash." These complaints were initially just guy talk between two dudes in the same boat, since Cameron's coworker was also paying child support. But get this, just a few days before Lauren died, Cameron, completely wasted, said in a cold-blooded way, "If that kid just disappeared, wouldn't I be free from this grind?" Initially, the coworker just chalked up Cameron's words to drunken blabber. But looking back, it gave him the creeps. He said, "I'd heard of people wanting to get back at their exes, but never someone targeting an innocent kid. It was unbelievable." And then, just a few days later, this horrible thing happened. The coworker was totally shaken up, remembering Cameron's venomous words. He was like, could a father really off his own daughter just over a lousy $1,000 a month in child support? So, after thinking it over, the coworker decided to go to the cops and rat out Cameron, hoping to bring the truth to light. But here's the messed up part. At that time, Jeffrey and his team were busy with the physics experiments, and the report got passed to another unit. Unfortunately, this crucial info was misfiled with a bunch of other paperwork, and was totally forgotten about for 15 long years. The coworker was never even put on the witness list. Capitalizing on this late discovery, Jeffrey was hell-bent on bringing Cameron to court for a third trial. This time, he had a new witness plus some solid evidence pointing to motive. It all showed that Cameron iced his daughter just to dodge those child support payments. The court also did something pretty dramatic. They took the entire jury to the crime scene. They stood on that massive cliff where Lauren was pushed off to really get a feel for just how incredibly dangerous it was. It was clear that a fall from that height meant certain death. Finally, after just 3.5 hours of deliberation, the jury unanimously found Cameron Brown guilty of first-degree murder. All 12 jurors agreed and demanded the harshest sentence. In the end, Cameron was sentenced to life in prison without parole. After the sentencing, Jeffrey, who had spent 15 years fighting for justice, decided to confront Cameron face-to-face. During their meeting, he looked straight at the man who had caused him so much grief for all those years and said, Cameron didn't say a word, but he said, "So, that wraps up today's case." Hopefully, after hearing this story, you all realize how crucial it is to take responsibility for your actions. Every single decision, big or small, can seriously affect not only your own future, but also the people around you. Always remember that each choice we make isn't just a fleeting moment. It can be a life-changing turning point. Sometimes, one irresponsible move can mess up not just your own life, but also create unpredictable consequences for others. Story 2. Actually, I'm in great shape. The American actor and musician, star of Home Alone. Why did his parents put him on movie sets so early? What led to his fight with Joe Pesci? And how did he, as some would say, make bad Marilyn Manson? On August 26, 1980, Macaulay Carson Culkin was born in New York, destined to become one of Hollywood's most successful child actors. The person most responsible for his success was his father, Christopher Cornelius Culkin, known as Kit, a former stage actor. His mother, Patricia Brentrup, had worked as a traffic controller before becoming a phone operator. But after starting her family with Kit, she stayed busy managing the home. Macaulay was the third of 7 children, growing up alongside his 4 brothers, Shane, the eldest, Kieran, Christian and Rory, and 2 sisters, Dakota and Quinn, the youngest. The star of Home Alone also had a half-sister, Jennifer, who sadly passed away at the age of 29. Macaulay was given this distinctive first name in honor of the politician, historian, and writer Thomas Abington Macaulay, while the middle name Carson was after the American frontiersman Kit Carson, a figure now often seen as a symbol of brutality toward indigenous Americans. Interestingly, as an adult, Macaulay chose to alter his middle name and even hosted a public poll for his fans to select an alternative. Winning with an overwhelming majority, the name Macaulay Culkin triumphed. And in 2019, he was officially registered as Macaulay Culkin in legal documents. Macaulay Culkin's heritage is an amalgamation of diverse origins. On his father's side, he possesses Irish, English, Swiss, German, and French roots. And through his mother, he also has both German and Norwegian ancestry. Acting talent seemed to run in his blood as not only his father, but also his aunt, Bonnie Bedelia, pursued a career in acting. She appeared in Die Hard and numerous other films and television series. Although they had 7 children, Kit and Patricia never officially married, but they lived as a traditional patriarchal family with the father as the head. However, the wife and children did not respect Kit. They only feared him, as he frequently resorted to violence and never missed an opportunity to humiliate the children. He earned very little from his job serving at the local Catholic church. The money barely enough to rent a small 1-bedroom apartment. At times, Macaulay was even sent to collect loose change from the floors of movie theaters. 2 adults and 7 children crammed into this tiny space without any privacy, with the bathroom door being impossible to close because the lock was broken. Consequently, Macaulay had no pleasant memories of his early childhood, only a cacophony of crying infants and an ever-shrinking sleeping space. Kit devised a solution to their financial woes by exploiting his children, upon noticing Macaulay's acting potential. The boy was sent to a children's drama school, where he was taught to dance and act. By the age of 4, Macaulay was already performing with the New York Symphony Orchestra. The stage seemed overwhelmingly large to him. So large, in fact, that he was afraid of being unnoticed and therefore tried to project his voice as loudly as he could. The audience appreciated the humorous boy, and afterwards, he received many stuffed animals from them. It appears Macaulay's other siblings also engaged in acting roles. However, not all maintained a commitment to this career path. Shane Culkin, for example, featured only in several television films and plays before opting for a more discreet life. Christian, Dakota, and Quinn similarly chose the same, while Rory and Kieran carved out successful careers in Hollywood. However, Macaulay was always the center of Kit Culkin's attention because he presented the most promising earning potential. After one particular performance, he was discovered by a talent scout who offered him opportunities for commercials. And in 1985, he participated in the television film The Midnight Hour for Halloween. From 1988 onward, Culkin actively began performing in film, appearing in an episode of The Equalizer, as well as dramatic features Rocket Gibraltar and See You in the Morning. He also performed in Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July. But his scenes were ultimately excluded from the final cut of the film. Macaulay was brought up Catholic, initially attending St. Joseph School in Manhattan, but was later moved to a professional school for children, a school designed for students with a natural aptitude for the arts, who had no time for regular in-person classes. Culkin did, however, drop out of high school in his final year, and for a period he also attended the American Ballet School in New York. The child actor rapidly rose to fame thanks to his acting in John Hughes's family comedy, Uncle Buck. A particular scene from the film, where Macaulay's character interrogates his uncle, became widely circulated across social media. During filming, Culkin's lines were written on a sheet of paper, which was pasted onto Uncle Buck's head, a role portrayed by John Candy, enabling the young boy to keep pace with the dialogue's quick-fire tempo. For this role, Macaulay received $40,000, and he befriended John Candy, while making an impression on John Hughes, who was already conceiving plans to produce a Christmas comedy based on one of his own screenplays. That upcoming project was Home Alone, and Hughes was certain that Macaulay was the perfect fit for the lead role. However, convincing director Chris Columbus wasn't easy. Even after meeting Culkin in person, Columbus continued to audition other candidates, but no one could compare to the smart, talented boy that Macaulay was. According to Columbus, the young actor quickly bonded with the other children on set and was incredibly funny in front of the camera. During filming, Culkin won everyone over, sometimes even jokingly attempting to direct the scenes instead of Chris Columbus. Catherine O'Hara cared for the child actor as if he were her own son, particularly when he fell ill. Macaulay worked for 5 hours each day, the maximum permitted for young actors by labor regulations, and even with these limitations, he often experienced intense fatigue. In between takes, he often slept directly on the floor and developed a severe cold. Even in this condition, he was able to complete the scene of Kevin fleeing from the police after stealing a toothbrush in a convenience store. Daniel Stern, who played the burglar Marv, spoke of his young colleague as an outstanding actor. However, Stern worried about the things this young boy had not yet experienced that were common for children of his age, for instance, how to play tag or how to throw a ball. Macaulay spent his time exclusively on set and at hotels. Thus, the crew often felt anxiety concerning the child's mental health. Joe Pesci initially had a hard time connecting with Macaulay. First, Pesci intentionally limited his interactions with the young actor to make their on-screen relationship seem more convincing. Second, Joe felt that Macaulay was being overly pampered on set. The presence of children in general made the veteran actor feel tense because he was used to swearing, but here he had to hold himself back. By the way, after filming Home Alone, Macaulay was bitten on the finger by Pesci, leaving a scar. No one anticipated Home Alone would become a blockbuster phenomenon. So the film's budget was fairly limited, with the lead actor's pay coming in at only $100,000. Nevertheless, following its premiere in November of 1990, the movie garnered significant audience interest, resulting in global box office earnings totaling nearly $500 million, earning Macaulay Culkin a Golden Globe nomination. The actor himself harbors mixed feelings toward the movie, which catapulted him to fame. As he once remarked, he does not enjoy rewatching the film, since the memories it brings back from the filming process inhibit his enjoyment of it. However, he occasionally still uses Home Alone to attract the attention of girls. Moreover, Macaulay remains perplexed as to why Kevin, a boy so smart and quick-witted, never called the police when the burglars tried to break into the house. After the successful debut of the Christmas blockbuster, Macaulay received a constant influx of new acting offers. His father, Kit, assumed the role of his manager and representative while also managing his finances. He adamantly demanded that his son receive $1 million for his role in the 1991 comedic drama My Girl, an action that subsequently made Macaulay the first child actor to receive such an exorbitant fee for one film. Further to this, and in an exceptional case, the film's first on-screen kiss not only achieved notoriety, but also secured the MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss as well. Macaulay collected this accolade together with co-star Anna Kolomsky. Also in 1991, Macaulay participated in the comedic drama Only the Lonely, once again working alongside John Candy, director Chris Columbus, and producer John Hughes. Furthermore, Macaulay also provided his voice for the central character, Nick McCleary, in the animated series Wish Kid, and at only 11 years old, he participated in the comedy sketch show Saturday Night Live. It is known that the boy's father forbade him from using cue cards, and the boy had to memorize all his lines. If his performance was not successful, his father, Kit, would threaten to beat him. Macaulay also continued his stage work, for example, appearing in several iterations of The Nutcracker. Tickets sold out rapidly, despite prices being significantly higher than usual. Another pivotal project for Macaulay in 1991 was the music video for Michael Jackson's song Black or White. Jackson had noticed the child actor following his role in Uncle Buck, and later came to watch the boy perform in one of his stage productions. They subsequently formed a close friendship. Macaulay frequently visited Michael's Neverland Ranch, where they played a range of adventure games together, as well as pulling pranks via telephone calls. He openly admitted to experiencing loneliness amongst his peers because they did not comprehend his circumstances, while Jackson had a kind disposition, was very humorous, and more than anyone, he understood exactly what child stars endure. In 1992, the sequel to Kevin McAllister's escapades, entitled Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, was released. This time around, Kit Culkin requested a salary of $4.5 million, and he did indeed achieve that goal, while also securing a role for his youngest son, Kieran, who had already made an appearance in the first installment as Kevin's cousin. Macaulay's increasing fame necessitated the use of rigorous security measures, making filming at airports especially challenging, since they had to function during typical operating hours. It's of particular interest that scenes were actually filmed at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, and that the name of the airport matches the surname of Macaulay's on-screen mother. For the purpose of filming in February, the airport's interiors were uniquely decorated in a Christmas theme. For his next feature, Macaulay's pay increased to $5 million. That film was the 1993 suspense thriller The Good Son, featuring his younger sister Quinn, as well as his brother Rory. Initially, Michael Lehman was chosen as director of the picture, but he was terminated due to significant differences and conflict with Kit Culkin. Ultimately, Joseph Rubin was selected for the directing role instead. That same year, the fairy tale musical The Nutcracker also debuted. This picture also had its share of difficulties in relation to Kit. He apparently disapproved of the film's narration, delivered by Kevin Kline, going as far as to threaten his son's non-participation in the film's promotional campaign, if that section of narration was not removed. Initially, the producer, Arnon Milchan, agreed to Kit's requests, but when he began delivering a range of new demands, it made Milchan so angered that he took action to restore the initial narration back into the final cut. In 1994, Macaulay participated in an episode of the series Frasier. He appeared as a guest on a radio show. The actor remarked this task proved particularly easy, as the recording was completed via telephone call, requiring him to remain at home throughout. In that same period, audiences again saw him in the family fantasy movie The Pagemaster, and in the comedies Richie Rich, as well as Getting Even with Dad. For the latter film, Macaulay had to grow his hair long. As soon as filming finished, he cut his hair short again. By this time, Macaulay's salary had reached $8 million, but the constant workload had taken a toll on him. Macaulay begged his father for a break to live a normal life, but Kit refused. He wanted to continue profiting from his talented son, who was not only acting, but also doing many commercials, such as for Sprite and LG computers. However, Kit's mounting reputation for his excessive demands across Hollywood had subsequently damaged Macaulay's career trajectory, leading him to be largely overlooked for major new acting roles. No one wanted any association with the unending demands made by Kit Culkin, who stubbornly demanded roles for all his other children, while requesting increasingly extravagant salaries. In 1995, Macaulay's parents divorced. Patricia accused Kit of ruining their son's career, making it nearly impossible for him to recover professionally. According to some rumors, she begged Macaulay never to act again, and he promised her that he wouldn't. A lawsuit was filed, and Patricia was granted custody of Macaulay. One of the key issues was Macaulay's assets. He had removed both his parents from his trust fund and appointed a trustee to manage it until he came of age. It turned out that Kit had hidden information about his son's wealth, and Macaulay was shocked to learn that his fortune amounted to $17 million. However, Kit had no foresight, and Macaulay's contracts did not include any royalties or percentage of revenue beyond his basic salary. As a result, despite Home Alone airing annually during Christmas, its lead star did not receive any earnings from the broadcast. Moreover, Macaulay, along with his siblings, cut off all contact with his father. It seems that only Shane Culkin remained in touch with him. During the ongoing legal proceedings with his father, Macaulay shifted his focus toward his studies and refrained from acting in film roles. It was not until 1998 that he resurfaced, participating in the music video for the rock band Sonic Youth, in their song Sunday. Subsequent to that, he re-emerged onto the stage. As a teenager, Macaulay endured loneliness, finding respite only in the intimate relationship with his childhood friend, Rachel Miner. who he had first encountered at a professional school for children. Shortly before his 18th birthday, he decided to marry his sweetheart, therefore requiring written consent from both of his parents. However, this youthful marriage was ultimately short-lived. By 2000, they had formally separated, and their divorce followed 2 years later. In the early 2000s, Macaulay returned to theater, featuring in Madame Melville in London, performing the role of a 15-year-old who is seduced by his French teacher. Subsequently, this stage production transferred to Off-Broadway, enjoying a run for a total of 4 months. During this time, Macaulay began dating actress Mila Kunis. She too had gained fame at a young age, so she could understand Macaulay's situation. However, even she didn't expect him to face such extreme levels of fame. The couple couldn't even enjoy a simple walk on the street, as Macaulay would often be recognized and treated as a child, which made it difficult for them to experience normalcy. In 2003, Macaulay Culkin came back, playing the lead character in the cult, dark comedy Party Monster. His role was the notorious Michael Alec, a particularly high-profile figure in the history of club culture. Michael Alec at that point was currently serving time in prison, so Macaulay was able to have a first-hand visit with him for that character work. Marilyn Manson also featured in this film, who had been famously bought a pack of cigarettes by Macaulay during the shared period of work for them all together. Macaulay noted this moment as ironic, since Manson had a widespread reputation for his supposed status as Antichrist, whose corruption was directly performed by Kevin, his innocent Home Alone character. Also during that year, the actor took part in one episode of the popular series Will and Grace, and immediately following, he participated in both the adventure drama Jerusalem Sky Syndrome and also the coming-of-age tragicomedy Saved. That latter project, while lacking overall box office success, actually garnered him a particularly positive critical response. Around this time, Macaulay Culkin was arrested multiple times for possession of illegal substances. The first time he was briefly detained, but later released on a $4,000 bail. For the next offense, he was sentenced to 3 years of probation and fined $540. In 2005, he appeared in the dark comedy film Sex and Breakfast and lent his voice to the animated series Robot Chicken. During this period, Macaulay also publicly defended Michael Jackson. Under oath, he denied all allegations against Jackson, who was ultimately acquitted. Since then, Macaulay has continued to support his friend. "If I have something to say, I'll say it," Macaulay shared in a 2020 interview. Additionally, Macaulay Culkin became the godfather to Michael's children and supported them after the pop icon's death. He spent a lot of time with Paris Jackson, and the two even got matching tattoos, leading the media to speculate about a romantic relationship between them. However, Macaulay consistently denied any speculation of that nature, acknowledging his considerable love and protective feeling toward Paris. In 2006, Macaulay Culkin published a semi-autobiographical novel in the experimental form which he entitled Junior, which details aspects of fame and also his difficult relationship with his father. However, the actor has, since that time, expressed some regret at this book's publication, even labeling himself as a fraud for publicly sharing such mindless ponderings. In 2008, a significant tragedy occurred within the Culkin family when his sister Dakota died in a traffic collision. During one of their last ever conversations, she offered praise toward her younger brother for his performance in Party Monster and wished for him to stay dedicated to his work while maintaining the same levels of commitment too. However, the death of his loved one had a profound impact on Macaulay, leading him further into unhealthy habits. Regarding his work projects, Macaulay only participated in the fantasy television series Kings and appeared in an advertisement for the British insurance company Aviva Insurance. Additionally, on August 17, 2009, he made a brief guest appearance in a wrestling program. Macaulay had been a passionate fan of professional wrestling since the early 90s, when he was invited as a guest star to watch the show as a child. The final blow for Macaulay came with his breakup with Mila Kunis at the end of 2010, initiated by her. The breakup was painful for both, and Macaulay fell into a state of deep depression. However, he still participated in the experimental film The Wrong Ferrari, directed by musician Adam Green, which was filmed entirely with an iPhone and released in 2011. That same year, the actor also appeared in the music video for the song Stamp Your Name on It, performed by Jack Dishell, a former member of Green's band. In September 2012, Macaulay appeared in a YouTube video where he shared about transforming his New York apartment into an art studio. He had purchased the property around 1999 to 2000 for $1.7 million. Just a few months after posting the video in December 2012, Culkin attempted suicide due to years of prolonged depression. Fortunately, he was able to survive through this notably trying period. Then, in December of the following year, he went on to form a cover band, parody Pizza Underground. The musicians performed covers of the tracks of that famed rock band, the Velvet Underground, and would rewrite the lyrics to center around a common motif, that being all aspects of pizza. They were originally met with welcoming audiences in the States, but a first-ever tour of the UK terminated within much negative crowd reaction. After only 15 minutes, the musicians were all forced to abandon their performance, soon after deciding to call off all other scheduled performances of this project entirely. In 2016, the group formally disbanded. As an interesting sidebar, Mac actually dated Jordan Lane Price, also one of this band's members, during a short time frame for several years of his life. There were rumors that they were about to get married, but they broke up in 2017. Following the group's disbandment, Macaulay pursued work as a DJ in nightclubs and concurrently participated in the sitcom The Jim Gaffigan Show, in Adam Green's low-budget movie adaptation of that Eastern fairy tale, Aladdin, along with that online short-form show series entitled Drive Hours within the first of that said series. The actor again returned to his old Home Alone image as his now-age character, Kevin, from many prior years, once again appearing to his loyal audience. He was also during that approximate period recast to perform as Kurt Cobain, the famed legendary rock musician, performing for singer Josh Tillman's music video, in commercials for a British price comparison company, Compare the Market, and was known also for his sporadic TV talk show appearances. In January 2018, Culkin launched a comedic lifestyle website, Bunny Ears, and a podcast of the same title soon after. This project was largely a send-up of celebrity websites, like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. For a long period, this was Macaulay's primary activity, leading him to call himself a homebody. He still occasionally did act, though. For example, Culkin was home alone again for a Google Assistant commercial. In that advert, an adult version of Kevin is seen. Now, he is clean-shaven, seen also bouncing on his bed while decorating his Christmas tree, but he now has a digital assistant this time. In 2019, viewers saw Macaulay in the film's Changeland and also a Dollface series episode. Both shared projects saw actress Brenda Song act alongside him, his new romantic partner. She was also famous since childhood for roles on Disney, so they had lots in common. Their harmony was so complete that Culkin could not believe it and kept searching for flaws. Finding nothing, he then stopped hiding his emotions, and not long after, they began cohabiting. Brenda Song speaks happily of how her partner is kind, loyal, sweet, and intelligent. In return, he made her happy with poignant gifts, for instance. During a Christmas period, Culkin gave her a kitten, and Brenda named that cat Santa Claus. After some years living together, Macaulay and Brenda chose to have children. This became real in 2021. On April 5th, the couple welcomed their first son, Dakota Song Culkin, named after the actor's late sister. Both stars chose no nannies. Getting help from the child's grandmother, Brenda's mother, she would bring the baby to the film set, breastfeed him, and spend time with him during the breaks between scenes. Macaulay also returned to the set for a role in the 10th season of the horror drama series, American Horror Story. The actor agreed to participate in the project over the phone, when writer Ryan Murphy promised him a romantic scene with Kathy Bates. Macaulay even said, "It seemed like this role was meant for me." In January 2022, Macaulay declared his engagement to Brenda Song. She also then launched a bridal wear line with Amazon Handmade, which used preparation for her own wedding as inspiration. News of a wedding date was never widely spread. By that December that same year, the couple then celebrated birth of their second son, named Carson. While anticipating the arrival of their new family member, Macaulay also made time to feature within 2 episodes of The Righteous Gemstones, as well as contributing his voice to the animated picture, Intergalactic. He was also approached for a part in The Big Bang Theory, though after due consideration, he repeatedly declined, citing he struggled to fully visualize his presence within that type of format. Further, while auditioning for Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he also acknowledged he simply wouldn't himself hire someone himself due to what he felt were his substandard casting displays. By December 1, 2023, Macaulay received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. At the ceremony, his fiancée Brenda, with their 2 sons, offered direct support. In his acknowledgments, he also expressed deep love for his family. Natasha Lyonne, whom he worked with on Czar Party Monster, offered her support and congratulations. Catherine O'Hara, also present, recognized Macaulay's acting in Home Alone, stating that he contributed to its becoming much more than just a film, and directly helped create traditions around viewing it each holiday season. That presenter then concluded by directly referencing the film, ending that output simply by saying Merry Christmas. Experts have estimated Macaulay Culkin's net worth at $18 million. He partnered with Happy Socks for a Christmas collection, also working with Golden Road, a brewery, promoting its products via his Instagram. He also did some modeling, appearing for Gucci, plus also led to Jane and Back in the Groove, his comedic video game. Macaulay has stated he makes earnings through property in multiple places across the globe, and that all is in addition to a NYC penthouse converted into an art studio. During the 2010s, Macaulay Culkin resided within his apartment in Paris. Then, after his partnership with Brenda Song, relocated to live alongside her at her Studio City bungalow in Los Angeles. A vast living room, designed around a focal point, fireplace provided access to the grounds that consisted of a courtyard with an outdoor grill, and also a swimming pool and landscaped garden. Later, they sold that property to purchase another, a 2-story house for $8 million, at Toluca Lake in Los Angeles. This house was 450 square meters. A yard held a pool. Also included, a dedicated dining space, plus large lawn areas with a minimalist modern design interior. 2. Confirmed details from Macaulay's automobile a few beyond seeing him drive his black Lexus SC430. Macaulay acknowledged his deprived childhood and frustrations stemming from poor parental relations. That aspect from early fame also lead to specific effects, notably agoraphobia, where he had what he felt as terror in crowds. That became far worse following an incident where fans rocked his on set. Walking his dogs helped him cope better. Yet, despite such past struggles, he always maintained perspective, saying all could have been far worse. He dedicated much time to forging relationships, since cutting direct contact from parents. A comfortable base plus close family also helped that all in combination together, including his having moved completely outside all former religious belief. The final time in that former space became as his attendance of his sister's funeral. He sought calm via conversations with his fiancée and children plus close friends plus video games, especially World of Warcraft. In late November 2024, Macaulay Culkin began a tour across North America featuring nostalgic screenings of Home Alone. After each viewing of this Christmas classic, the actor will also hold question and answer sessions for his audience. Story 3. This story happens in Oklahoma, a south-central state within the United States, known for its high number of Native American people. Sand Springs, the town where our story is, was made by a nice rich person, Charles Page, with the first idea of making a safe place for orphans and widows. As time went by, the town became a place for all kinds of people. Our main subject, Nanny Hazel Doss, also made her home here. At the age of 48, she had gone through 5 marriages. A woman always, it seemed, she just wanted love. She lost herself in romantic magazines and lovey-dovey films, looking for stories of true connection. She kept trying for love and romance, until the truth was shown, completely ruining her daydream of love. Monday, September 12, 1953. In Sand Springs, the daylight slowly faded as darkness started slowly to cover the sky. Nanny Hazel Doss, 48, brought a freshly baked fruitcake to her husband. His name was Samuel Doss, age 59. The two had been married for 3 months and were really happy with their awesome honeymoon time. Doss took the good-smelling cake, smiled at his wife, then started to eat his share. Nanny sat across from him, eating her own portion of cake as well. Following dinner, the couple went to their bedroom to get ready for sleep. For some reason, Doss' stomach suddenly tensed with strong cramps. The pain twisted his face, leaving him pale and sweating all over, shaking in the bed all over the place. Nanny Doss rushed to see what happened, giving several upset stomach pills and rubbing his stomach. However, the condition did not get better. She immediately took him to the closest hospital. Upon checking, the doctor said Doss had a really bad gut infection. This kind of infection comes from small bugs, or can be from a bad side from some pills, which then causes quick start of symptoms together with loss of appetite, feeling sick and throwing up. Following doctor's recommendations, Nanny Doss checked in her husband for more care. During his stay at the hospital, Doss was so messed up by the illness that he grew really thin, lost 15 pounds. Thankfully, after treatment, his condition had begun to get slowly better. Nearly a month later, he was allowed to go home from the hospital. Returning home, Nanny Doss led her husband to rest on the sofa in their living room while she made his homecoming supper. Having been away for so long, Doss lay down on the sofa, shutting his eyes as he took a nap. After his wife woke him, he sat at the dining table, waiting for his wanted meal. This special dinner featured roasted pork, one of his favorite dishes, and Nanny Doss had made him a cup of really hot coffee. Doss took small sips from the mug as he tasted the roasted pork before him. The stuff that night tasted super fresh. The pork was roasted until hard, with a yellow-like color. Once his coffee was not hot anymore, he drank it all in a single gulp. Against what they thought, the being nice of his wife was not helping him to get better. Before midnight came, Doss died. Seeing this, Nanny Doss right away called the medical professionals and then started planning things. Upon getting the news, the doctor was really upset as well as confused. Before he allowed him to leave, he checked Doss' condition and thought his recovery was all good. His body condition as a whole wasn't thought to be a near-death problem. Something was not right. The doctor then allowed a look inside the body in order to find any problems underneath. Through this step, a way could be found which may also help to cure other similar patients in the future. The results of the body check were really crazy. Doctors found out that Doss' body had a super big amount of arsenic A's, an extremely dangerous item which was called a cancer thing. Arsenic things may make stomach problems such as stomach aches, really bad pain, throwing up, diarrhea, which may finally make you have bad kidneys, and then death. In human beings, the least to be dead by changes from 60 milligrams to 180 milligrams. However, the level of arsenic found inside Doss' body was higher than that way. This amount was big enough to bring down even a full-grown horse. At this point, the doctor figured that Doss' prior gut problem had actually been caused by quick arsenic poisoning. He right away called local people who has authority. Upon getting the report, Oklahoma State Police fast started a very official research. They asked Nanny Doss, Mr. Doss' closest relative, for questions. Under big watching, Nanny Doss firmly said no, that she had a hand in her husband's dying, saying she would never hurt her partner. Yet authorities didn't accept this, pointing to police records which showed, a month prior, Nanny Doss gave Doss fruitcake, which then made it for his stay at hospital. Similarly, just before his death, Mr. Doss had eaten food prepared by Nanny, and his sudden demise was clearly not a coincidence. Asking her directly, police asked if the fruitcake was poisoned. Nanny Doss suddenly laughed to herself. While talking a bunch, she was off point. She then would giggle a lot, threw out questions in a weird way of a friendly tone, mixed with a weirdness to it which gave those there a feeling of chills. Moving forward with their research, police looked deeply into her past and quickly found out a really scary truth, that Nanny Doss had been married 5 times with 4 husbands dying under mysterious circumstances. At first, Nanny denied knowing any of the victims, but her clumsy lies were quickly exposed. It turned out that she had been the beneficiary of the life insurance payouts for her previous husbands, receiving a total of about $1,500 in insurance compensation. Nanny Doss was indeed very direct, and once clear that not saying nothing was no longer an option. Given a ton of proof, confessed to a series of super bad things. which sent chills down the spines of police officers at the scene. Her full words said she took a total of 11 lives. These included her 4 husbands, her real mother, her second older sister, her 2 daughters, her 2 grandchildren, and her mother-in-law. While saying these words of confession, she laughed out loud. In 1905, Nanny Doss was born in Anniston, in eastern Alabama. Her entire family lived within a small and far-off village. Being the youngest of her siblings, she grew up with 3 older sisters, as well as an older brother. Super liked from the first moment, Nanny Doss loved all of her family, with the only time not her father, James Franklin Hazel. Being taught harshly as a young girl, Nanny Doss was made to cut firewood, go through fields, remove plants not needed, and pick up rocks by age 5. Her childhood was hard-working, dull, and filled with darkness. No good things to find in any way. She also would go too much away from school, as requested by her father, which then ended in being bad with her studies. In 1912, when Nanny Doss was 7, she went with her family by train to visit family in their hometown. While the train was going, she lost her footing, and her head hit the metal armrest of the seat in front of her, which then caused her to have long-lasting damage. Since that moment, she had non-stop headaches as well as bad depression, plus big changes in her personality. The young and kind girl faded away, replaced with her often mad mood swings. Even so, she found a new sense of pleasure within romantic magazines, with a bunch of make-believe and often bad form of representing love. Nanny Doss would be locked up for hours in her room, really looking closely at the happy couples in the magazines. As time passed, Nanny grew older and became enamored with advertisements for singles clubs, striving to find love for herself. Wants to find the perfect magic world. Love from the many love books that she had read so much. However, at this important point, her father had interrupted. He stopped all guys for Nanny Doss's attentions. Her father also said no to any being part of in people time activities. She wasn't allowed makeup, stockings, or any kind of clothes that would show shapes. Not even any way of fixing up her own hair was allowed. Finally, her father said that he would be the only one in deciding Nanny Doss's future husband. In 1921, he introduced 16-year-old Nanny Doss to an 18-year-old man named Charlie Braggs. To Nanny Doss's father's viewpoints, this young man seemed the best pick to marry his daughter. He was good-looking, tall with natural curls, always saying nice things to Nanny Doss. Most importantly, he lived a good life, staying away from bars, was very nice, and acted with respect. With her father's support, they married within 4 months. Over the next several years, Nanny Doss had 4 daughters. The pressure of raising her kids led Nanny Doss to show getting mad so easily, turning to alcohol and cigarettes, going from a sometimes smoker to big-time smoker, often going to the bar while pregnant, not listening to the men's catcalls. As time went on, Bragg's love faded. Both were cheating on one another, and soon 2 daughters died. The oldest and the second oldest both died after getting what appeared to be sick from food. This, for sure, was no accident. Unable to deal with her life stress, Nanny Doss put poison into their breakfast, which killed them with pain. Seeing his daughter's deaths in the same type, Braggs grew, was suspicious, staring hard into Nanny Doss' empty, gray eyes. For years later, he quietly took their 3rd daughter, disappearing for months. Nanny Doss then worked at a nearby textiles factory, and she raised her newborn daughter. It wasn't until the summer of 1928 that Braggs showed back up. He was not alone with their daughter. By his side was a woman he was for sure sleeping with. Nanny Doss got what was up right away. She got divorced from Braggs, really mad at her daughters moving them from their home. On the way there, she always cursed Braggs, the woman, and her bad fate. Back at her parents', she left her daughters with her mother, and Nanny Doss lived by herself, in an apartment which provided by the textiles factory. Never stopping hope for romance, she'd check out dating sections in her paper, and wrote letters to other men. Her letters finally got replies. One man named Robert Franklin Harrelson got Nanny Doss' eye. His response had a good poem and easy-to-picture descriptions. It had his info and picture. At 21, Harrelson was Nanny Doss' type of man, having cheek dents and curly hair. To show she liked him too, Nanny Doss sent him a cake and photo, and a note implying a bit of romance, telling him to meet. Getting the gift, Harrelson quickly made a date. Their connection was super strong, and they quick started a relationship. Got married in 1929 in Jacksonville, Florida. After marriage, Harrelson's bad parts showed. His drinking too much was not good for Nanny Doss. He was also a really rough man with a record for fighting. Often when drunk, he'd start fights, and even become harmful to Nanny Doss and her stepdaughters. Despite all this, Nanny tried to maintain the marriage for 16 years. Nanny Doss' daughters had since got big. Her youngest gave birth to her first son during the year 1943. His name was Robert Franklin Harrelson. 2 years after that, in the year of 1945, she then gave birth to a second child. Her tiny body made it hard for childbirth, needing help by telling that her own mother, Nanny Doss, come to the hospital to support her. Nanny Doss gave her time, all to take care of her daughter, spending the night wiping the sweat from her brow and helping her be calm throughout the hurts of labor. After many hours, a baby girl was born. When she heard the newborn's cries, the family and medical staff in the room all smiled. Yet, within that very first hour, the infant died. What truly did happen during that hour is only known by Nanny Doss herself. Her youngest daughter, still half awake from the sleepy juice, and her husband sleeping in a nearby chair, really tired from an entire night of no sleep. Nanny Doss took a good time, grabbed a hairpin, and really pushed it into the newborn's head. 6 months later, the 2-year-old son of her youngest daughter passed away. The cause of death was diagnosed as suffocation, though the exact cause remained unclear. At the funeral, Nanny clutched the small casket, crying uncontrollably until she fainted from lack of oxygen. No one would have ever guessed that this grandmother, with such a sweet appearance, was really the one who killed the child's life. After this, Nanny Doss got a $500 money from the insurance. She'd got an insurance deal for his life, for him putting herself the one who benefits from that deal. Now, with 4 murders to her name, she had got good amount of training, making all of these things becoming easier, making her look to her alcoholic husband, Harrelson, next. On September 15, 1945, 2 months after her grandson's death, also as U2 was finished, America was happy. Harrelson was partying at a bar, drinking so much. When they got home, he wanted to be intimate with Nanny, but she rejected him. He punched the wall, shouting threats that if she didn't obey, there would be consequences. To avoid being beaten, Nanny had no choice but to comply. This event only strengthened her resolve to end Harrelson's life. The next day, while looking at the garden, Nanny Doss found her husband's hidden alcohol that wasn't bought legally. An idea came, she put the alcohol with rat poison. That night, Harrelson gave in. After drinking the bad liquor, he slowly died with really pain on his face. Collecting her husband's money from the insurance, Nanny Doss began her travels. During this period, she kept looking for a new husband via newspaper dating sections. In Lexington, North Carolina, she met Arlie Jackson Lanning. Childhood friends now met back up unexpectedly. 3 days later, they married. To others, Nanny Doss was the greatest wife. Caring for her home, having a neat garden, and lines of clean, smelling good laundry always around in the backyard. She would often visit and help her mother-in-law with cleaning at her house. In this third marriage, Nanny Doss had changed up. She was no longer okay to being told what to do, nor did accept much stuff. When her husband drank too much, she'd leave without talking their home, living somewhere else for months. What Nanny Doss did during her time being gone is not known. Each time coming back, Lanning would promise to stop from drinking. Promise he always broke. Really let her down. Not long after, Nanny Doss visited her second sister, very badly sick. With Nanny Doss' loving care, the sister died easy in her sleep. Shortly afterward, her mother-in-law, Lanning's mother, also died in her sleep. Though doctors couldn't know exactly what made it happen, the way of death was the same as her sister's. 2 years later, Lanning, her third husband, died of heart failure. Doctors had their thoughts that his drinking so much had made weak his heart and stomach, made it even worse by a flu going all over the state. Nanny Doss arranged the funeral, crying while telling to the people mourning that just the day before, she had made his coffee and his favorite fruitcake before he passed out. Her husband, not well known, known for seeing sex workers often, had few actually felt sadness from his death, with most feeling pity for Nanny Doss. This time too, Nanny Doss got a huge insurance. She was happy to have the money, leaving all what's left from her feeling of sadness behind. By this point, Nanny Doss had killed off 8 people. At age 47, not wanting to stay alone, Nanny Doss joined the Diamond Circle Club in Emporia, Kansas, a matchmaking club. For a $15 yearly fee, members got letters by mail showing available single men, women. There, Nanny Doss met 63-year-old Richard Lewis Morton. He was a tall man with darkish skin, still had a presence about him despite his age. Morton felt very strong liking with Nanny Doss from their first time, even sending messages to the club manager to say his thanks for letting him met the sweetest, most beautiful woman I have ever met. The two got married in October 1952, and Nanny moved into Morton's house, enjoying a period of happiness. She frequently received luxurious gifts that her husband bought for her, but within months, the new feeling of romance got old. For Nanny Doss, Morton became not that fun and not good at things, though showing he was generous. He was actually had no money, always asking for money to go along. Nanny Doss also saw that each time her husband went for their daily wants, it always made it longer for him to get things. When she did ask him, he simply muttered he was always slow to do anything. Nanny Doss did not buy this. She followed him secretly, found out her husband going on dates with other known women. The many gifts that Nanny Doss got were not hers alone. He bought 2 things each, wanting to please both in and outside her home. Nanny Doss had again chosen poorly in her quest for love. But Morton chose far worse, picking a heartless killer. Before Morton met his end, another victim came, Nanny Doss' own mother. 1 year after marrying Morton, in January of 1953, Nanny Doss' mother came to live with them. Within days, the old woman was having stomach pains before dying. Nanny Doss says the whys were now fuzzy for taking the life of her mother, saying perhaps she got in the way of her own plans for her husband. 3 months after her mother's death, Morton, her 4th husband, followed along, dying after drinking coffee made by Nanny Doss. Having killed 10 people, Nanny Doss was by herself with no partner again, getting back to her quest for true love, choosing this time. She sought a decent man who could offer true, real love. At age 48, her eyes looked to Samuel Doss, 59, her last husband, whom she'd also end his life with to his end before being caught. Doss was a pastor. He didn't drink or smoke and did not speak with bad language and seemed very true, tough and loyal, almost the perfect man. Within 2 months of her previous husband's death, Nanny Doss married Doss in Sanders Springs, Oklahoma. But this time, Nanny Doss had it wrong. Her new husband, despite many positive good points, proved really boring. In his old times, Doss had made stiff rules. His days were like clockwork, doing same things over and super done. He also wanted his wife to do the same set life, which Nanny Doss, who wanted fun and freedom, found bad. While Doss was good with money, he was really cheap in his everyday life. For instance, he'd only switch on a fan during super hot heat and absolutely not before. Otherwise, his thinking of why it should not be turned on was true. Likewise, lights were only to be used when absolutely necessary. And though complete darkness could take place on their rooms, if he could move about by touching for his belongings in total blackness, it was more than enough. Nanny Doss found this controlling and making her hold back, choosing to move away. Finally, Doss saw how bad he messed up and wrote her begging to come back. To show he was real, he told her about a new bank account for her, which she could have any time. Furthermore, he bought 2 life insurance plans with her, the person meant to get those earnings, a nice for her result for Nanny Doss. For months into their marriage, Doss gave up the ghost by an illness. Nanny Doss, a super sneaky woman out of nowhere, acted with really high speed. On the day following his dying, she'd gone all the way to his insurance place, saying she wanted that claim right now. This then made suspicions by that company. At the same time, his doctor noted odd things in the quick death of Doss. Finally, Nanny Doss' 23-year-long spree of horrible things would be found out. During questioning, Nanny Doss smiled and slowly recounted the tale, which ended her smile then was lost as she grew silent, her gaze fixed, seeming to contemplate. After a pause, she said, "Authorities had exhumed bodies to test for poison. Arsenic levels were excessive in her 4 husbands, mother, mother-in-law, sister, and grandson, reinforcing guilt against Nanny Doss. While no poison was found in others, all had signs of suffocation. Authorities in prior cases had lacked clear evidence to directly tie Nanny Doss to these acts. Therefore, prosecutors only charged her with Doss murder." When a journalist asked Nanny Doss, she smiled under the flashbulbs, telling she'd take any outcome. Each time she said about her many bad things she had done, she laughed with no cover-up. Because of these acts she would do, she'd come to have many names, including the Jolly Black Widow, the Giggling Granny, the Lonely Hearts Killer, and more. One man, after having found out Nanny Doss' killer identity, expressed how shocked he felt about his experience, saying to the media that before, they had still in contact after first meeting from local newspaper. They talked like friends via mail. When the bond between the two began to be stronger, Nanny Doss sent a cake she had baked herself. However, due to being without apples and dry fruit that he always liked, he chose to throw out it entirely. He thinks that had he had a bite of this thing made, he most likely would have become her next target. Prior to trial, several mind doctors looked at Nanny Doss and agreed that she was indeed not an innocent soul. In May of 1955, the case went to trial within the Tulsa County Court of Oklahoma, with defendant Nanny Doss being called out as guilty of murder in the first degree. At trial, Nanny Doss stated strongly what got her to do all was from love, not for the money aspect. That those many love magazines from her childhood created a way to misunderstand about love, making her to quick getting with people with whom she knew very little about. Then if they didn't do those fake wantings, she would then kill them completely. The prosecutor said against. These statements alone couldn't possibly make clear the killings of pure children or her really close family, stating that, if given chance and to take insurance plan that is intended for payout, Nanny Doss would kill without any doubt. After looking at the case, the court found Nanny Doss guilty of first-degree murder. At that time, women in Oklahoma didn't get the death penalty. She was imprisoned at Oklahoma State Penitentiary. After 2 years of her life sentence, she grew anxious, even hoping for a death penalty. Yet her state remained cheerful, making jokes about her cases. When talking about her prison work, she'd make complaining noises. The only duty was washing clothes. Nanny Doss, then a 49-year-old woman, had already signed an official paper, admitting she'd personally taken the lives of 4 out of 5 of her husbands across different states, by using liquid rat poison that she mixed with their food, before dying from blood cancer while being there by sentence of her crime. She was 59 years of age upon death. The case really affected public view at local, particularly Bragg's, Nanny Doss' only still alive husband. Known as the husband who got away, Bragg's was Nanny Doss' first spouse who left after being cheated on by her. Upon getting told about Nanny Doss' death, reporters ran towards him for answers. Even after so many years, Bragg still remembered the past clearly and explained how Nanny Doss would be out late each night, while cheating on him even more than what he did also. It was after the deaths of his daughters in really fast manner that he became suspicious and grew afraid, not wanting to do it with any food made by his wife. This saved his life. Many asked Nanny Doss' mind state if her actions about her mother, sisters, and husbands had been only about getting insurance money. What was there to her doing it by terrible measures towards both her newborn granddaughter or her grandson? These acts gave Nanny Doss nothing real for her to get, perhaps only made her messed up want for bad pleasure. Some might think Nanny Doss' childhood head injury may have made a deep-down problem for her mind. However, all these ideas are just guessing. Upon Nanny Doss' death, those creepy laughs were finally stopped. Story 4. Lim Siriyoung, the daughter of a wealthy South Korean family, fell in love at first sight and married Lee Jae-yong, the chairman of Samsung Group. After their marriage, they had 1 son and 1 daughter. So, why did she choose to divorce after 11 years of marriage? This divorce became one of the most expensive in South Korea. She rejected the title of crown princess, refused to be controlled by fate, bravely fought against the largest conglomerate in South Korea, and ultimately built her own career. Today, she is an independent businesswoman with a stable love life, a top figure who is both a successful entrepreneur and a fashion icon, influencing the business, fashion, and entertainment industries in South Korea. Today, we will learn about the transformation of Lim Siri-young, one of the prominent daughters of South Korea's wealthy families. Lim Siri-young was born August 13, 1977, in Cheongdam-dong, Seoul, among the most renowned affluent areas of South Korea. Born with a silver spoon, she was the eldest daughter of Lim Chong-wook, the chairman of Daesang Group and among the wealthiest figures within South Korea. Daesang Group is South Korea's leading food company, and it owns the iconic Korean kimchi brand, Janga, familiar to many. The Daesang Group, established by Lim Siri-young's grandfather in 1956, now remains among the top 3 global firms in fermentation. Despite her privileged family background, Lim Siri-young's life did not fit the traditional image of a rich girl. Unlike other wealthy daughters, she often appeared in front of friends and colleagues dressed simply, blending in with ordinary people. She attended Sukmyeong Girls' High School in Seoul, and no one knew her true identity. Although she had a driver every day, she would often ask the driver to stop a bit further from school and walk the rest of the way herself. It wasn't until her mother, Park Hyun-ju, came to a parent-teacher meeting that her classmates learned who she really was. However, Lim Siri-young never considered herself superior to others and always longed for a life of freedom, like ordinary people. In February 1996, Lim Siri-young, with outstanding academic achievements, was accepted into the Business Administration Department at Yonsei University, one of South Korea's top universities. With her prestigious background, beautiful appearance, and elegant manners, she quickly became a highly sought-after candidate for the perfect daughter-in-law among many wealthy families. The marriages of wealthy daughters are often not self-chosen. At that time, Samsung Group, with its stronger economic power than Daesang, was looking to expand into the food additives industry, which pressured Daesang, the leading company in the. Furthermore, Lim Siri-young's mother, Park Hyun-ju, and Samsung's First Lady, Hong Ra-hee, were close friends in the Buddhist community. Samsung felt that Lim Siri-young was a woman of exceptional beauty and talent, perfect for Lee Jae-yong. Thus, both families arranged for the two to meet. Their first meeting took place at a restaurant in Seoul. The setting at the time was extremely formal, complete with security details, secretaries, and additional companions in attendance, including both of their mothers. Due to this familial orchestration, as well as both parties approving each other, their relationship soon progressed, with those two being separated by 9 years, then decided to get acquainted more intimately. After a year of dating in January of 1998, they formally announced their engagement and then held their lavish wedding of the century in June at the Home Art Museum in Gyeonggi-do. The wedding ceremony was officiated by former South Korean Prime Minister Kang Young-hoon, and among the guest list were 2 former South Korean Prime Ministers, Lee Soo-sung and Lee Hyun-jae, along with an estimated 500 guests, many prominent figures within politics, business, as well as from fashion and other prominent public individuals. In contrast to the extravagant, luxurious event and its star-studded guest list, what struck everyone present most was indeed the happiness upon both of the newlyweds' faces, displaying affection to each other with tenderness. They all believed Nanny was the perfect daughter-in-law for Samsung, and had clearly discovered a true treasure. Upon becoming a princess of the Samsung, Lim Siri-young now had another title, Lee Jae-yong's woman. Though outwardly, Lim Siri-young seemed pleased with her married life, she was in reality a woman forever longing for autonomy. Upon marrying Lee Jae-yong, Lim Siri-young had to sacrifice many aspects of her former life. Despite excelling in academics, she was made to abandon her studies at Yonsei University, joining her husband to the USA, supporting his doctoral studies at Harvard University. Simultaneously, this marriage provided the opportunity for Daesang Group and Samsung to collaborate within food additives as a new market, which was also publicly announced. During this time, Lim Siri-young and Lee Jae-yong had what all witnessed to be a devoted, passionate connection with the public eye, often showing how, in private moments, that Lee Jae-yong would routinely praise and celebrate to others his ever-capable and dutiful wife. In 1999, Lee Jae-yong's father, chairman of Samsung, Lee Kun-hee, underwent lung cancer surgery within America, where Lim Se-ryung was frequently observed attending to him while acting as caregiver. Such devotion earned her full acceptance from the typically fastidious Lee Kun-hee as his daughter-in-law. She later went on to bear her son, Lee Ji-ho, in 2000, followed by her daughter, Lee Won-ju, in 2004. During her pregnancies, because of the heavy demands of his occupation, Lee Jae-yong was unable to be present for either yet would speak via phone to inquire on her well-being in calls to her every day, which had drawn both admiration and love from all outside observers to see this as true intent by this couple to be in a caring, loving marital bond. However, this seemingly peaceful existence would soon have elements shifting once Lee Jae-yong completed his doctorate upon their move back to South Korea under the same residence of his own parents. What was seen as a luxurious lifestyle became limited under many unspoken rules. Lim Se-ryung's children both bore the genetic physical gifts from their mother. On one occasion, she brought her daughter to a local kindergarten, where she was caught in a picture by paparazzi, which prompted harsh criticisms from the families and the assertion she was acting much too flamboyant with her recent exposure. Also, at another occasion, Lim Se-ryung was reprimanded directly by her mother-in-law for using a Sony brand music device. Due to being of the opinion, she disregarded Samsung's competitiveness with Sony. She was told to think of this rivalry before contributing in boosting public brand presence with Samsung's opposition. As a person not known for complying so easily, Lim Se-ryung felt anger grow inside of herself from such restrictions. Trying to address this situation, she made her attempts with Lee Jae-yong and requested to move into her own home, which he declined. Even during conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, Lee Jae-yong failed to defend Nanny, instead urging her to prioritize their family harmony and endure such behavior. Over time, despite loving him, Nanny's heart grew cold, but a prior event highlighted the true nature of the Lee family. That was in 2005, when Lee Jae-yong's youngest sister, Lee Yoon-young, took her life. It was due to her parents not approving her relationship with someone lacking wealth or status, then forcing her to study overseas. This vibrant woman quickly spiraled into depression because her true love was forbidden. After Yoon-young's death, Samsung first claimed a car accident before the press forced a formal apology. It then came to light the chairman, Lee Kun-hee, faced investigation for tax evasion along with illegal payments to his children, which might lead him to prison time. For these reasons, the family failed to even attend the funeral of their own daughter. Nanny was very close with Yoon-young, and that deeply affected her. Such callousness and clear sexism by the Lee family made Nanny's future start to feel constrained. However, all of this only became the straw that broke the camel's back. The final blow occurring in May 2008, when her family's Daesung Group faced financial devastation. During this time of worldwide financial crisis, Daesung Group, a leader of South Korean food industry, was struck hard. Due to plummeting exports along with internal fiscal strain and a freezing of assets, the corporation had its share of their own financial crisis. In response, Lim Se-ryung, feeling as family, could not sit and watch as all that has been worked on would fail. Instead, she then sought her husband, Lee Jae-yong, requesting help from the Samsung Group in assisting them through their hardships. However, much to her surprise, Lee Jae-yong completely ignored her plea, and to only then, alongside with her mother-in-law, Hong Ra-hee, started the quiet buy-out of Daesung Group stock at an extremely low rate, all done with the clear intent of capitalizing from their struggling time. At this point, anyone, no matter how meek, would have been pushed to the edge. All the more so, Lim Se-ryung, a woman already known for her rebellious spirit. In February 2009, Lim Se-ryung re-emerged into the public spotlight. Her intent was clear: to dismantle the labels that defined her. Lee Jae-yong's woman, Samsung's crown princess. She filed for divorce, articulating 3 key demands. Firstly, she wanted full custody of their children. Through negotiation, primary custody was granted to Lim Se-ryung, while Lee Jae-yong retained guardianship, a crucial point, possibly related to his future role and inheritance within the Samsung empire. Consequently, Despite the divorce, both Lee Jae-yong and Lim Se-ryung remained actively involved in their children's lives and education, seen together at graduations and school events post-separation. Her second demand was for 1 billion won in alimony. Finally, a division of assets, rumored to reach nearly 1 trillion won, was also sought. Initial predictions forecasted a prolonged and acrimonious legal battle. However, in an unexpected turn, the situation quickly deflated, likely due to the sensitivity of the issue for Samsung as a massive corporate entity. Thus, instead of protracted fighting, the divorce proceedings concluded faster and more smoothly than most imagined. Within a week, an agreement was hammered out. In a way, Lim Se-ryung escaped her 11-year marital cage. She regained her freedom and, furthermore, secured custody of her children and a substantial financial settlement. Due to a mutual non-disclosure agreement, the specific monetary details have never been publicly revealed, shrouding the outcome in mystery. Interestingly, during his hospitalization, her father-in-law, Lee Kuan-hee, reportedly made efforts to prevent the divorce, demonstrating an affection for his daughter-in-law. It is significant to note that in South Korea, at that time, women who initiated divorce often faced public disapproval. Lim Se-ryung, a woman who stood at the precipice of becoming one of Korea's powerful figures, however, brazenly relinquished her crown princess title. Her bold action triggered a new narrative. She became a pioneer of high society women instigating their own divorces, an act which became an inspiration for many. Rather than encountering societal scorn, her actions fueled the resolve of Lee Kuan-hee's eldest daughter, Lee Bu-jin, who in 2014 similarly filed for divorce from her allegedly parasitic husband, Im Woo-jae. Divorce did not break Lim Se-ryung. Instead, it fueled her transformation. She sheared off her long, flowing locks, reinventing herself as a decisive and driven power player. Free from constraints, she returned to her family and devoted herself to managing the YZP culinary brand under the Daesang Group. While not large in scale, her sharp business acumen was undeniable. She also opened a French restaurant in Cheongdam-dong, named after herself, and even earned the plate recognition from the Michelin Guide. Despite her capable stewardship, the YZP restaurant chain eventually succumbed to continually declining profits. In 2012, Lim Se-ryung returned to the Daesang Group as creative director. Here she was tasked with spearheading business operations, marketing strategies, and design for multiple food brands, overseeing several critical divisions within the company. By 2016, she was promoted to managing director, and in March of 2021, Lim Se-ryung officially took her place as the vice chairwoman of Daesang Group. Along with her younger sister, Lee Sang-min, they led Daesang to regain the top position in the market share rankings among South Korea's food conglomerates. Concurrently, she completed her deferred education, graduating with a degree in psychology from New York. While pushing Daesang Group to new heights, Lim Se-ryung also found what she deemed her second spring, a second chance at love with the renowned South Korean A-list actor, Lee Young-jae. Anyone with an appreciation for South Korean television or cinema will undoubtedly know of Lee Young-jae, who has starred in multiple blockbuster productions. Furthermore, with the worldwide success of the 2021 Netflix phenomenon, Squid Game, his lauded portrayal of the protagonist propelled his career to stratospheric new heights. He garnered nominations for Best Performance by an Actor in a Drama Series at the 79th Golden Globe Awards and became the first South Korean actor to secure the award for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Drama Series at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. In 2015, a torrid story of a relationship between a high society heiress and an elite actor captured the public's imagination and dominated the headlines. The central figures of that intense focus, Lim Se-ryung and Lee Young-jae. This revelation triggered a public sensation that arguably eclipsed even the fervor that accompanied Lim Se-ryung's divorce from the Samsung crown prince, Lee Jae-yong, years earlier. A question burning on everyone's minds: how exactly did this unlikely pair meet? Rumors suggest that following Lim Se-ryung's divorce in 2009 and her subsequent return to the Daesang Group, Lee Young-jae was serving as a brand ambassador for the corporation. Their paths crossed frequently due to work obligations, and they developed a close friendship. Yet, It's unlikely that Lim Se-ryung, fresh from the emotional turbulence of her divorce, remained entirely unscathed. Meanwhile, Lee Young-jae, too, was still recovering from a recent breakup of his own a few years prior. Seeking solace, they leaned on one another, healing each other's wounds, and gradually, those shared moments blossomed into romance, thus beginning their clandestine relationship. During the early stages of their courtship, both remained extremely discreet. They were sporadically spotted by paparazzi on outings, sparking initial whispers of a potential relationship. To safeguard Lim Se-ryung from undue public scrutiny, Lee Young-jae issued blanket denials, portraying their relationship as nothing more than a close friendship. However, that ever-present figure, Dispatch, Korea's leading entertainment news outlet, was watching closely. Each New Year's Day, Dispatch executes a signature move that ignites public anticipation. They reveal the New Year's couple, a bombshell report exposing one or two pairings of celebrities or K-pop idols involved in secret romances, usually accompanied by incriminating paparazzi snapshots. And in 2015, the couple that Dispatch unveiled to the world was none other than Lee Young-jae and Lim Se-ryung. With irrefutable evidence surfacing, the couple promptly acknowledged their romantic involvement. Later reports suggested that the pair had actually traveled together to the Philippines as far back as 2009. Following the public confirmation, they rarely appeared together in public, and Lee Young-jae has remained reserved about mentioning Lim Se-ryung in the press. Now, at 51, Lee Young-jae and 47, Lim Se-ryung still operate with meticulous privacy. Despite being together for many years, they remain unmarried. Lee Young-jae has offered that Lim Se-ryung isn't a celebrity. She is, first and foremost, the mother of two children, and he didn't want her or her family to become targets due to his life in the limelight. This sheds light on the intense care and consideration he feels for the relationship, which even now remains shrouded in mystery. Despite their infrequent public appearances together, they were seen at events such as the Academy Awards ceremony in 2021 and the Emmy Awards in 2022. Each appearance was marked by clear and affectionate expressions of love for one another. The fact they haven't married has fueled speculation, some whispering about a class disparity between the two families, pointing out how traditional Korean society can find it hard to embrace seemingly unequal unions. Yet, Lim Se-ryung and Lee Young-jae appear indifferent to these voices. Rather than facing condemnation, they have drawn support and good wishes. Their event appearances draw public comments, lauding them as an impeccably matched couple, a visual embodiment of elegance and success. Her frequent interactions within the entertainment sphere, coupled with her ability to maintain a youthful, stunning physique into her 40s, has cultivated a strong fan base around Lim Se-ryung. Many young female office workers look to her as a fashion icon. Images snapped of her while out and about quickly circulate online, showcasing her distinct sense of style. Back when the photos were leaked by Dispatch, confirming her relationship with Lee Young-jae, one of her Valentino coats became an unexpected internet sensation and the design sold out at retailers across the country. Many commented on the charismatic intensity in those shots, arguing that she possessed the captivating presence of an actress, perhaps even more so than actual performers. For many women, Lim Se-ryung is not just a fashion influencer, but a symbol of personal liberation, someone who dared to push back against an ingrained patriarchal system. Once a caged bird in an arranged life of high society expectation, she ultimately defied expectation by prioritizing happiness and finding a partner who demonstrably loves her for who she is, not for what she represents. And thus, we bring to a close the remarkable transformation of this chaebol heiress. Story 5. However, the public remains skeptical of his confession. Committing such extreme acts solely due to business failure seems incomprehensible. Moreover, with his many lovers and clients, why did he target Yumi in the second murder? Was this premeditated or a spontaneous act? These questions still need clarification. In June 2024, 6 months after the incident, the Nagoya District Prosecutor's Office formally charged Soga Haruki. The case is still in litigation to determine if he is mentally competent to stand trial. For now, Soga Haruki remains in custody, awaiting trial. That concludes today's case. What are your thoughts on this incident? Leave a comment below. Before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We'll update you on this case as soon as the final verdict is available. Until then, goodbye and see you in the next classic case on true crime in the world. On Tuesday, December 26, 2023, at 11:30 a.m., the festive Christmas atmosphere still lingered in a bustling shopping mall in Nagoya's Nakamura ward. Shoppers were leisurely browsing when a piercing scream suddenly shattered the calm. Someone's been killed. Run. Something's happened. Get out now. The sudden chaos sent the crowd into a frenzy. Though unsure of what was happening, people panicked and rushed toward the exits for safety. Upon receiving the report, police quickly arrived at the scene. The incident occurred at a karaoke lounge on the mall's 7th floor. The victim, a 20-year-old woman, was found collapsed on the floor in critical condition. The perpetrator, a man, had called the police to confess. Police and emergency responders swiftly accessed the 7th floor scene. A preliminary check showed the young woman was still clinging to life. After on-site first aid, she was rushed to the hospital. Despite efforts, her injuries were too severe, and she passed away after 2 hours of emergency treatment. The forensic report revealed multiple defensive wounds on her arms, with the fatal injuries concentrated in her chest. The shape and depth of the wounds indicated a knife as the murder weapon, and the cause of death was excessive blood loss. The time of death was estimated at around 1:30 p.m. that day. Simultaneously, police investigated the karaoke lounge where the murder took place. An employee shared that the victim, identified as Yumi, name changed, was a 20-year-old regular customer. She had a close relationship with another frequent patron, Soga Haruki, and they appeared to have been romantically involved in the past. The two often visited the lounge together, making them familiar faces to the staff. On the morning of the incident, around 11 a.m., Yumi arrived alone and asked if Soga Haruki had come in yet. Learning he hadn't, she entered a karaoke room by herself. Shortly after, Soga Haruki hurriedly arrived, asked for Yumi's room number, and headed straight there. As usual, an employee prepared a fruit platter and drinks to bring to the room. But upon entering, he witnessed a horrifying scene. Soga Haruki stood near the door, holding a knife and muttering to himself. Not far away, Yumi lay slumped on the floor near the TV, the sight utterly chilling. The employee screamed in fear, prompting Soga Haruki to drop the weapon and flee the room. Hearing the commotion, other staff rushed to the room. After discovering the situation, they immediately called the police. The employee added that Soga Haruki and Yumi had always seemed to have a good relationship, never showing signs of conflict. They were affectionate and cheerful during their visits, leaving everyone baffled about what had transpired in that room to lead to such a tragedy. After examining the scene, police found a kitchen knife in the karaoke room. Forensic analysis confirmed Soga Haruki's fingerprints on the knife. It wasn't an item from the lounge. He had brought it with him, indicating premeditation. According to media reports, Yumi and Soga Haruki met at a hostess bar and later became romantically involved. During their relationship, Yumi had generously given Soga Haruki 1.5 million yen, approximately $10,000, to support his business ventures. Shockingly, after receiving the money, Soga Haruki cut off contact with her in the summer of 2023, ending their relationship. Yumi eventually moved on from the emotional blow and started dating someone new. But at that point, Soga Haruki reappeared, demanding to rekindle their romance, setting the stage for the tragedy that followed. As the incident took place in a central area, causing a stir throughout the mall, news spread rapidly. 2 high school students later approached the police with additional clues. They were at the karaoke lounge during the incident. Around 11:30 a.m., while heading to the restroom, they passed the room where the crime occurred and heard noises inside. Curiosity led them to peek through the glass door, where they saw a man brutally attacking the victim. Terrified, they rushed back to their room and locked the door, only emerging minutes later, when they saw police arrive. They noted that the perpetrator had his back to the door, obscuring his face, but described him as tall and thin. Soga Haruki, standing at 1.90 meters, 6 feet 3 inches, matched this description. However, a check of Soga Haruki's past records revealed he once weighed 130 kilograms, 286 pounds, seemingly inconsistent with the thin description. On this point, some lounge employees clarified that Soga Haruki had recently become very focused on his appearance, actively losing weight and undergoing multiple cosmetic surgeries, dramatically altering both his physique and looks. Soga Haruki was born in 1998 in Aizu, Shizuoka Prefecture. From a young age, he had a robust, tall build, standing out among his peers. In high school, his physical advantage earned him a spot on the judo team. Under strict coaching, he excelled in the sport, becoming the vice captain and leading his team to a fourth-place finish in a tournament. After graduating high school, due to family reasons, Soga Haruki didn't pursue higher education and instead entered the workforce, gradually abandoning judo. Early on, he worked as a gardener, but quickly grew bored. He then transitioned to the culinary field, starting as a waiter at a ramen chain. During this time, he quietly learned ramen-making techniques and restaurant management. While working as a waiter, he often collected contact details from attractive female customers. Back then, he was overweight with average looks, but his humorous and charming conversational skills drew attention, often helping him achieve his goals. Over time, many regulars enjoyed chatting with him, and he built a sizable social circle. In 2019, at 21, Soga Haruki moved to Osaka, securing a job as a head chef at another ramen shop with a significantly higher salary. But shortly after, a friend offered him a managerial role at a different ramen shop in Gifu Prefecture, Yokohama Ikiai Dosanya. With an even better salary, he accepted immediately. Through his charisma and social connections, Soga Haruki rose from a humble waiter to a manager in a short time, becoming an admired figure among those around him. As a manager, he worked harder and treated his staff kindly. But just as the business was thriving, a crisis struck. In November 2019, the shop's vending and change machines were stolen, resulting in a loss of over 2 million yen, roughly $13,000. As the manager, Soga Haruki bore partial responsibility. Though he actively cooperated with the police, providing leads, the case remained unsolved. With the machines gone, staff had to manually take orders and handle payments. During peak hours, they couldn't keep up, and the shop's revenue couldn't support hiring more employees. One day, Soga Haruki posted on the shop's social media, explaining that their small, private ramen business lacked funds to hire additional staff and faced potential bankruptcy if the situation persisted. The post gained traction, and many loyal customers stepped in to help, voluntarily donating money. A typical ramen bowl cost 800 yen, about $5, but some regulars paid 1,000 yen, around $6. Thanks to their support, the shop weathered the tough period. Amid this misfortune, Soga Haruki unexpectedly became an online sensation. People who heard his story flocked to the shop to check in. Eager to see the manager in person, recognizing an opportunity, he ventured into live streaming on various platforms, earning over 400,000 yen monthly, approximately $2,600. Tasting success, he grew dissatisfied with his modest managerial role. He quit, returned to his hometown in Shizuoka, and used his savings to open a new ramen shop, becoming his own boss. He entrusted daily operations to a trusted employee, focusing instead on his streaming career. As he embraced the allure of the online world, Soga Haruki became increasingly self-conscious about his appearance. He noticed that popular streamers often had glamorous looks and fit physiques, while he felt overweight and average, leading to feelings of inferiority. Driven by a fierce desire for fame, he resolved to transform himself. First, Soga Haruki underwent gastric sleeve surgery at a hospital. This procedure alters the digestive system by removing a large portion of the stomach, slowing digestion, and reducing the small intestine's effective absorption length, significantly cutting calorie intake and absorption to achieve weight loss. Determined, he went through with the surgery. Afterward, his weight dropped dramatically from 130 kilograms 286 pounds to 80 kilograms 176 pounds. Slimmer, Soga Haruki gained newfound confidence but still yearned for a better life, feeling his earnings were insufficient for his expenses. Wanting to explore more opportunities while young, he decided to venture into an entirely new field, male escorting. He believed this profession would connect him with wealthy clients and offer quick money. He understood that to be popular with clients, he needed not only a perfect physique but also a handsome face. He had achieved the first requirement but still lacked the second. Soga Haruki studied the traits of successful escorts, noting their high-nose bridges, sharp jawlines, and striking eyes. One escort, Roland, real name Matsuo Fuka, caught his attention. Roland was considered one of Japan's highest-earning escorts, reportedly making 300 million yen annually, around $1.9 million US. Aspiring to emulate Roland, Soga Haruki underwent cosmetic surgeries to mimic his features. After the procedures, he transformed from an overweight man into a handsome young man. To achieve his desired look, he spent all his savings. The high costs of cosmetic surgery, along with post-operative care, left him with significant debt. But he seemed unconcerned, confident he'd soon earn it back. So, Soga Haruki closed his ramen shop in Shizuoka and focused on his escorting career. In March 2023, Soga Haruki moved to Nagoya. With his polished appearance and charming, humorous demeanor, he quickly carved out a place in the industry. He indeed had a knack for the trade. Within months of working at a bar, he won over numerous female clients, becoming the bar's top escort and significantly boosting his income. Yet he soon grew restless. Just 3 months into the job, he quit and opened his own hostess bar in Nagoya's Nakamura Ward. He lured his former clients to his new venue and business initially thrived. But no one could have predicted that, just 6 months after opening, he would become entangled in a murder case. Following the incident, police quickly identified Soga Haruki as the suspect and launched a manhunt. They apprehended him on a street not far from the shopping mall. After his arrest, Soga Haruki claimed he was coerced into committing the act, stating he no longer had the courage to live and wanted someone to join him in death. Shockingly, he revealed that, in addition to killing Yumi, another woman was lying in a bathtub at his apartment. Alarmed, police immediately headed to Soga Haruki's residence. Soga Haruki's apartment was close to the karaoke lounge, less than 2 kilometers away as the crow flies. The apartment had a simple layout. A foyer at the entrance led to a hallway, with a bedroom on the right, a bathroom and toilet on the left. Beyond the hallway was a combined living room, dining area, and kitchen, with 2 bedrooms opposite, each with its own balcony. Inside the bathroom, police found a woman in a bathtub filled with water. She was in her underwear and lifeless. The forensic report showed no external injuries. The cause of death was drowning, estimated to have occurred between December 25th and 26th, 2023. There were no signs of a break-in at the apartment, and no belongings were missing. Thus, Soga Haruki, 25, was linked to 2 murders. Through their investigation, the woman in the bathtub was identified as Nagano Shirori, a 30-year-old with an attractive appearance and a lively personality. She worked at a company in Gifu Prefecture with a stable income. In July 2022, Nagano Shirori met Soga Haruki at a social gathering. She was drawn to his gentle, cheerful demeanor, and the two quickly fell in love. A few months into their relationship, Nagano Shirori moved into Soga Haruki's apartment. Unbeknownst to her, Soga Haruki was a serial womanizer, exploiting women for both money and affection. Yumi, the other victim, had also met him during this period. After she stopped giving him money, he discarded her until the tragedy struck. Police interviewed residents around the apartment. A woman stated that, prior to the incident, she hadn't noticed anything unusual at the apartment or heard any strange noises. Having lived there for a while, she often saw Soga Haruki and his girlfriend coming and going. He always greeted her politely, leaving a good impression. The couple seemed affectionate, a talented man and a beautiful woman, making their tragic end all the more shocking. A neighbor on the same floor reported that around 3 a.m. on December 26th, while he was asleep, a loud bang startled him awake, sounding like an argument and objects being smashed nearby. About 10 seconds later, the noise stopped. Police reviewed the building's surveillance footage, which showed Soga Haruki and Nagano Shirori entering together on the evening of December 25th, with no other suspicious individuals present. On the morning of December 26th, Soga Haruki left alone. Nagano Shirori never exited the apartment. A man claiming to be Nagano Shiori's close friend approached the police. He described her as someone who lacked a sense of security, becoming heavily dependent on Soga Haruki after they started dating, obeying his every word. Before the incident, Nagano Shirori confided in him that her boyfriend's mental state had deteriorated. He would stay holed up in the apartment for days, neglecting personal hygiene, looking haggard. She avoided confronting him due to his unstable temperament, as he often lashed out over trivial matters. The friend speculated that Soga Haruki might have a mental disorder, leading to such extreme behavior. Another woman voluntarily came forward, revealing she had also been in a relationship with Soga Haruki. She described him as selfish, outwardly sociable and friendly, but deeply opportunistic, exploiting women for money. During their relationship, nearly all her earnings from her part-time job went to him. When her savings ran dry, he promptly ended things. Not only did he deceive women emotionally and financially, but he was also a habitual cheater. To such a self-serving person, hurting others wasn't surprising. In the interrogation room, Soga Haruki appeared weary and hopeless. Facing police questions, he admitted to his crimes and recounted his psychological state. Before becoming an escort, Soga Haruki had poured all his savings into cosmetic surgeries. Believing his skills would quickly recoup the investment, he boldly took out a large high-interest loan, unaware he was stepping into an abyss. Though experienced in the food industry, running a hostess bar proved an entirely different challenge. After opening the bar, he assumed his old connections would draw customers. But reality dealt him a harsh blow. Many of his former big-spending clients were mere passers-by, uninterested in supporting his business long-term, and new customers weren't impressed. Complaints abounded. The venue was too ordinary, the service lackluster, and the price is too high. The sky-high interest rates placed immense daily pressure on him. Desperate, he launched reckless promotions, slashing the initial 15,000 yen fee, about $100 to 3,000 yen, around $20. While this briefly attracted customers, profits plummeted, leaving him not only unprofitable, but in debt. Under the strain, Soga Haruki turned to women willing to fund him, including Nagano Shirori. During their relationship, he constantly fabricated reasons to ask for money. Initially, she was unaware of his escorting job, believing she had found true love, and willingly gave him her savings. Whenever she inquired about his work, he lied, claiming to be a freelance streamer. Nagano Shirori eventually uncovered the truth and, unable to accept it, proposed a breakup. Soga Haruki promised that once his business stabilized, he'd stop seeing clients. Trusting him, she borrowed money from friends to support him further. Despite her efforts, the bar's business remained dismal. The prolonged financial strain nearly broke Soga Haruki's spirit, leading to frequent arguments with his girlfriend over money. At dawn on December 26th, another dispute erupted. She urged him to close the bar, warning that their debts would spiral out of control, leaving them trapped. But Soga Haruki, now unhinged, refused to give up, convinced persistence would turn things around. Nagano Shirori, who had always been soft-hearted, had no more money to give. She couldn't have imagined her boyfriend would harm her. Losing all reason, Soga Haruki ruthlessly drowned her. After the act, he was overwhelmed with despair. Brief remorse and fear flashed through him, followed by another deranged thought. Since there was no turning back, he'd take another life to join him in death. After deliberating, he called Yumi, the woman he claimed to love most besides Nagano Shirori. Yumi was a regular at his bar, and had lent him money during their relationship, only to abandon him later. Despite his pleas to reconcile, she remained unmoved. The more he dwelled on it, the more unhinged he became. After arranging to meet Yumi at the karaoke lounge, he grabbed a kitchen knife from home, hid it in his bag, and went to the meeting spot. Upon arriving, he rushed to Yumi's room and, without a word, attacked her. Caught off guard, Yumi collapsed immediately. Knowing there was no escape, he didn't flee but waited for police to arrest him on a nearby street. However, the public remained skeptical of his confession. Committing such extreme acts solely due to business failure seems incomprehensible. Moreover, with his many lovers and clients, why did he target Yumi in the second murder? Was this premeditated or a spontaneous act? These questions still need clarification. In June 2024, 6 months after the incident, the Nagoya District Prosecutor's Office formally charged Soga Haruki. The case is still in litigation to determine if he is mentally competent to stand trial. As the rain falls and the night deepens, thank you for being here with me at Radio Night Crime. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the need to stay aware, even in the stillness of the night. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the sound of the rain lull you to sleep, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night keep you company.